If you asked Emily Rivers when her life first started to fall apart, she wouldn't even have to think about it. When my mom started showing up at my house unannounced and offering my boyfriend her fried chicken recipe because, and I quote, it might improve his taste in women. Yep. That's what she said. And no, she wasn't joking. Emily lived in Austin, Texas, in a neat little 2-story townhouse with red brick walls and a tiny backyard where rosemary grew wild and the occasional armadillo wandered through. She was one of those women who'd built everything herself. College scholarship, tech startup internship, junior product manager at a well-known firm. Her boyfriend, Zach, taught computer science at a local middle school and was the kind of guy who laughed at movies when no one else did. Which, of course, is exactly why she'd fallen for him. But in the tidy, self-made world Emily had constructed, there was one constant source of chaos. Her mother, Barbara, a suburban Dallas retiree and former realtor who, post-divorce, had discovered what she called a second wave of energy and was now aggressively living her best life online. She posted life advice on Facebook like it was scripture and filmed TikToks about how to make lasagna that'll win your husband back, or at least make your son dump his weird girlfriend. When Emily bought her house, she knew Barbara wasn't going to just let go. But she hadn't expected her mom to go this far. One evening after a brutal day at work, Emily came home to find her mom standing in her kitchen. Not sitting. Standing. In an apron that read, "Hot Moms Cook Better," iPad in hand, Pinterest open, and saying, "I figured you wouldn't mind. I had a spare key. You gave it to me back in college, remember? I changed the locks, Mom." "Oh, well, I guess I got lucky then. You must have forgotten to lock the deadbolt," she said with a smile that somehow managed to be the most threatening thing Emily had seen all week. And that was just the beginning. Barbara didn't just drop by. She accidentally called Zach during his lunch break to check how he was feeling. She commented on his Instagram photos with things like, "Maybe you need a girl who can cook," and tagged Emily in them. For her birthday, she invited both of them to a spa hotel and booked a single room with 2 beds. Zach, trying to make light of it, had said, "This feels like a horror movie. Only instead of a ghost, it's your mom." Emily had laughed. Back then. But deep down, something in her had started to feel unsettled. That night, during a Zoom call with her friend Lauren, a mom of 2 living in Denver, Lauren snorted and said, "You should have shut this down a year ago. When she started recording her convos with Zach to show you how you really sound?" Emily was quiet. "She just wants me to be happy," she said finally, like she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. Lauren didn't hesitate. "No. She wants you to be the version of yourself that's easiest for her to deal with. And there's a big-ass difference between that and actually being happy." That's when something started to shift in Emily. She remembered how her mom used to pick out her prom dresses, how she'd pressured her into going to college in Texas because too far away is dangerous. How she'd said Zach wasn't the one, because a man should earn more than his woman. Or it's not a family, it's a science experiment. Barbara still thought Emily was the same little girl she could dress up, put makeup on, and place neatly on a shelf. Only now, that girl had grown into a woman, with a mortgage, emotional intelligence, and a serious case of burnout from being micromanaged. One night, Emily turned to Zach and said, "I think I need to have a real talk with my mom. Not just ask her to back off. I need to set some actual boundaries." Zach looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, something like relief passed across his face. "If you do that," he said, half joking, "I might just propose to you." But Emily knew it wasn't just a joke. It was a line in the sand, for him, for her, for whatever came next. She looked down at her phone. Another notification from Barbara. A new TikTok. 10 signs your kid is in a toxic relationship. I should know. I have a daughter. Emily turned off the screen. It was time to grow up, not just for herself but in her mother's eyes too. The morning started off like everything was fine. Sunlight slipped through the bedroom blinds, coffee bubbled in the smart coffee maker Emily had proudly programmed to start at 7:15, and Zach was still asleep, one arm draped across her waist. Everything looked peaceful on the outside. But inside, Emily's chest was tight. Today was the day. The day she'd finally say the thing she'd been afraid to say for years. Barbara had invited her to a girls' breakfast. at some trendy little cafe on the edge of town. The kind of place where stylish moms, stressed-out college kids, and lonely coders camped out behind their MacBooks. Emily knew her mom had picked it on purpose. Cute, public, harmless-looking. Like this was just a casual catch-up, not an emotional battleground. Barbara was already seated when Emily arrived, dressed in a perfectly ironed seafoam blouse, holding a mimosa. Her lips were glossy, and her eyes sparkled with that same unshakable confidence women have when they know they're always right. "Emily," she said, fake warmth cranked to 11. "You look tired, sweetheart. Are you eating okay? Zach's not stressing you out, is he?" Straight to passive aggression. Classic Barbara. Emily sat down across from her, resting her hands carefully on the table so they wouldn't shake. "Mom, we need to talk, for real." Barbara leaned back in her chair, lips tightening. "Oh God, you're pregnant? Or did you finally dump Zach? I told you he's—" "Mom." Emily's voice cut sharp through the air. Even the waiter walking by slowed for half a second. Silence. I need to set some boundaries," she said, her chest burning. "You keep interfering in my life. You show up uninvited. You call Zach on my posts like you're trying to start drama. I can't do this anymore." Barbara froze, then clanked her glass down on the table a little too hard. "I'm just trying to take care of you, Emily. You've forgotten what real love looks like. What care looks like. You have no idea what it's like to be a mother. You don't know how many nights I stayed awake when you went off to college and didn't call. You don't know what I've sacrificed for you." Emily nearly broke. Memories surged. Her mom, standing outside her dorm window after she missed 3 calls. Showing up to her job interviews, just in case you need support. Smiling like it was normal. "Care isn't control," Emily said, steady. "You don't give me space. You don't respect my choices. You've turned my life into a war zone." Barbara straightened up. "I just don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. I married your father because I thought it was the right thing to do. I don't want you settling for what's convenient." Something old and deep twisted in Emily's gut. It was like being 14 again, hearing, "That blouse makes you look chunky, sweetheart. Go change before people think you've let yourself go." But this wasn't 14-year-old Emily anymore. This was a grown woman. "I don't need a supervisor in my life. I need a mom who supports me, who trusts me, and if you can't be that, I'll have to create distance. I'm serious, Mom." Barbara stared at her. Then she whispered, "You'd really push me away? Over some guy?" "No, over me. Over my stability. Over my mental health." She paused, then added, "And, yeah, over the relationship we could still have. Because if I don't draw the line now, there might not be anything left between us later." That hit like an electric shock. Barbara paled, then gave a weird, nervous laugh. "Well, look at you. Drama queen much? What, did your therapist teach you how to say all this?" "Yep, sure did. You might want to book a session too, by the way." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. For the first time, Barbara didn't have a comeback. She turned to look out the window, nodded slightly, and almost whispered, "I'll think about it." Emily nodded back. "Think it over. But I'm changing the locks, and if you want to keep talking to me, you won't call Zach, you won't show up at my place without an invite, and you will not comment on my life publicly. This isn't a request, it's a condition." She stood up, left the check on the table, and walked away. Barbara stayed seated, alone. That evening, Emily came home, opened her laptop, and exhaled. For the first time in what felt like months. Zach wrapped his arms around her without asking a thing. Just held her. Quiet. And in that silence, she realized something. Whatever came next, she had finally taken her first real step toward herself. 3 days. It had been 3 full days since that showdown at the cafe. 3 days of silence. Something Emily hadn't experienced since she got her first cell phone in 2008, and Barbara figured out how to send her emoticons made of parentheses and dots. No texts, no Facebook comments. Not even one of those cryptic, passive-aggressive Instagram stories. Nothing. At first, it felt like a gift. Space. Freedom. But by the 4th day, the silence started to feel louder than words. Emily knew all too well, when Barbara went quiet, it meant she was planning something big. That's how it always went. As a kid, the silence would be followed by Mom showed up at school to demand why you got a B in math. In college, Mom booked you a flight home for Christmas even though you said you were staying with friends. On day 6, a box arrived. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Inside, a photo album. Old family snapshots, Emily in preschool, Emily in her first mermaid costume for Halloween, prom night, all glitter and nerves. On the last page, a handwritten note. You've forgotten who raised you. I wasn't interfering. I was guiding, but if you want to see me as the enemy, so be it. Just remember, you won't always be right. I just hope it doesn't hurt too much when you realize that. Emily set the letter down like it was radioactive. She sat there, numb. It wasn't an apology. It was a threat wrapped in nostalgia. Zach walked in, took one look at her face, and knew. What'd she do now? She handed him the letter. He read it, gave a short nod, then said, My dad called me. Said your mom tried to reach out to him, wanted to bump into him and talk about us. Emily blinked. What? Yeah, she invited him for coffee, told him, and I quote, You're worried about where Emily's headed to, right? He had no idea you two barely talk anymore. Otherwise, he would have said something sooner. This was a whole new level. Barbara wasn't retreating. She was building an army, recruiting allies. This wasn't about love or concern anymore. It was about power, about her inability to let go of her daughter without unraveling herself. Maybe she was guiding me, Emily whispered, but all I ever felt was that I wasn't enough. Like my life was her project. And now that the project's going off script, she's panicking. Zach sat beside her, gently took her hand. You don't have to fix her, Em. I know, but she's still my mom. A pause. Then Emily said quietly, I'm going over there, not to explain, just to end it properly. She didn't hear me at that cafe. She will this time. An hour later, she was in the car, heading back to the house where half her life had happened. White siding, faded shutters, camellias by the window, that old home sweet home sign still hanging by the door, Barbara's post-divorce declaration of survival. The door opened almost instantly, like Barbara had been waiting behind it the whole time. You came, she said, not even pretending to be surprised. Yeah, because I need to finish what we started at brunch. Barbara stepped aside. Come in. The house was exactly the same, spotless, controlled, over-curated. Emily sat carefully on the edge of the couch, like she might upset the balance just by existing. I can't live under your microscope anymore, Mom. This isn't love, it's surveillance. You've turned my life into some kind of show, and you're trying to be the writer, director, and executive producer. But this is my story. Barbara sank into the chair across from her, arms crossed. Your story, she echoed. Are you even sure you know how to write it? Emily took a breath. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to live up to your blueprint. I don't want to cut you out, but if you keep this up, I will. It'll hurt, but I can do it. Can you? Barbara turned away. Her eyes glistened. When you were born, she said quietly, I swore I'd never make you feel the coldness I got from my mother. But maybe I overcorrected. Emily's brows lifted. That was the closest Barbara had ever come to self-reflection. I just don't know how to not be needed, how to not be the center. I was trying to still matter to you, but I guess I went about it the wrong way. She looked at her daughter. Maybe a lot of the wrong ways. Silence fell. But this silence felt different, calmer, not laced with guilt or manipulation. If you want to stay in my life, Emily said softly, you'll have to learn how to listen, not just talk. Be beside me, not above me. Barbara nodded slowly. I'll try. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't a tearful reconciliation, but it was something, a start. Later, back at home, Emily opened her phone to a new message from Barbara. Thanks for coming. I booked a therapy appointment. I hope you're at least a little proud of me. I'm really trying. Emily smiled. Proud? Not quite. But she believed her, and for the first time in a long while, that was enough. The first couple of weeks after that talk with Barbara were surprisingly chill. Emily barely recognized her mom. No random calls, no sneaky check-ins through mutual friends, no passive-aggressive comments on social media. Just the occasional text with simple stuff like, how are you? Or can I stop by for coffee on Sunday? Emily even replied a couple of times, let's do next week. Zach and I already have plans. And instead of the usual guilt trip, I see, always last on your list, Barbara just texted back, okay. Thanks for letting me know. It felt like a miracle. Or maybe just the calm before the storm. Emily chose to believe in the miracle. But the real test came, like always, out of nowhere. It was a Tuesday evening. She was sitting on the living room floor, sorting through a box of old papers, bills, warranties, random documents she'd been meaning to organize forever. Zach was working late at the office, and the apartment felt like the safe, cozy little bubble they'd built over the past 2 years. Then, her phone rang. Unknown number. She didn't want to answer, but something in her gut said otherwise. Hello? It's me. Her mom's voice. Mom? Why are you calling from a different number? My phone's broken. Or I dropped it in water. I don't know. Listen, I'm in your area. I saw an ambulance leave earlier and freaked out. Thought maybe it was you. Emily froze. Mom, that's not normal. You just saw an ambulance and assumed it was for me? Well, I'm sorry, I still care about my daughter. And there it was, classic Barbara. What, you think I'm just sitting at home drinking quinoa smoothies while you live your big free life? Mom, we talked about this. Emily tried to keep it together, but her voice was already trembling. You're crossing boundaries again. This isn't love. It's anxiety. And it's suffocating. I was just trying to make sure you're okay. What's so wrong about that? And there it was. That what's so wrong. Every time Barbara crossed a line, she wrapped it in the packaging of concern. Like her fear meant more than her daughter's peace of mind. Mom, Emily whispered now, you don't call from unknown numbers to check if I'm dead. You don't track down my friends. You don't follow me around in real life. If you keep doing this, we'll end up right back where we started. So that's how it is now? Her mom sounded almost like a pouty kid. You're giving me conditions? Like I'm some stranger? You are a stranger, if you choose to ignore my boundaries. Silence. Mom, I know you're trying, but if you want to be part of my life, you have to learn to trust me. Even if that means not seeing me every day. Even if that means waiting for me to call. Click. Barbara hung up. Later that night, Emily sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea she'd reheated 3 times. Zach had come home and found her hunched over the counter. She called again? He asked gently. She nodded. I really thought things were changing. But maybe she just got better at hiding it. She rubbed her forehead. And I'm just so tired of being the adult in this relationship, explaining, begging, teaching my own mom how to be a parent. Zach sat next to her. Em, what if we moved? What? Moved? To a different neighborhood, different city. You've said you wanted to try the West Coast. New start, new weather, new life. Maybe it's time? Emily looked at him. At first, her eyes showed fear, then relief, then guilt. I'd feel like such a traitor if I left, like I was abandoning her. Or maybe, Zach said softly, she spent your whole life making you feel that way, like freedom has to come with guilt. Silence. Heavy, raw, but real. I'll think about it, she said finally. The next day, Barbara sent a voice message. For the first time, no guilt trips, no sarcasm, no, I was just trying to help. You're right, I messed up, I crossed the line again, it's hard being on the outside. But I understand now that if I don't stop, I'll lose you for good. I'm sorry. I'll go back to therapy. And if you're willing, maybe we can talk next time we meet. But you decide when and how. Emily listened to the message 3 times, then set the phone down and cried. Not from pain, not from fear, from hope. Because maybe, just maybe, in this long, exhausting war for control, a crack had finally opened. And something real, something equal, might finally grow through it. 3 months had passed. And in all that time, not once did Emily hear an unexpected knock at the door. No calls from unknown numbers. No surprise visits just passing by. No cryptic texts about a terrifying dream where something happened to you and I had to check in. Barbara had actually stepped back. And it felt weird. Like living in a room where a loud AC had been humming your entire life. Only now someone finally turned it off and you realized just how much noise you'd been tuning out. Emily started sleeping better, waking up without that weight on her chest. Spending weekends with Zach without checking her phone every half hour, wondering if her mom had texted something happened. Freedom felt warm, quiet, and honestly, kind of terrifying. Terrifying because now, for real, she was the only one responsible for her life. No backup. No mom will fix it if I screw up. No, what if she's right? And like it always happens, just when things started to feel clear, something shifted. One evening, on her way home from work, Emily saw a voice message from Barbara waiting on her phone. Hey sweetheart, I just wanted to say, tomorrow's my last therapy session. I've learned a lot. If someday you ever feel like it, I'd love to share what I've realized. not to teach you anything. Just so you know, I really have changed. I love you, but I'm learning how to love without control. It's hard, but you're worth it. Emily listened to the message again and again. There wasn't a hint of manipulation, not one little phrase that sounded like, "and now it's your turn." Just calm, and, maybe for the first time, acceptance. 2 weeks later, Emily and Zach were sitting at the kitchen table of their new apartment. Their first morning in San Diego. They'd actually gone through with it. Not out of spite, not to escape, but because they were ready to start fresh. No background static, no constant anxiety, no more playing by someone else's rules. The move was quiet. Barbara didn't protest. She didn't beg. She even sent them a letter, an actual handwritten one, in an envelope. Inside were just 2 lines. You should never have to choose between freedom and love. Real love always leaves room to breathe. Emily cried right there in the kitchen as she unfolded it. Zach wrapped his arms around her in silence. "She finally gets it," Emily whispered into his chest. "She does," he said. "But more importantly, you get you." Later that evening, Emily sat by the ocean. The sky was turning deep violet, the air still warm, the breeze rolling in off the sea just like she'd always pictured it would, every time she imagined a new chapter of her life. She opened her notes app and typed, "Sometimes love suffocates, but when you let go, it turns into air." She hit save. She wasn't going to keep fighting. And she sure as hell wasn't going to play the victim. She was an adult now, with her own choices, with scars, but also boundaries. And a mother who, maybe finally, understood that you don't just guide your grown daughter. You respect her, even if you gave her life.